There's something about the ocean that doesn't sit right with me. I couldn't tell you why. I've never had a bad experience. Never nearly drowned. Never been caught in a riptide. But even when I was a kid, building sandcastles with sunscreen on my nose and salt in my hair, something about the horizon always felt too empty, too wide, like the ocean was waiting for something. But I never said it out loud, especially not this weekend. It was supposed to be the trip, the last real one before we all split off into separate lives. College, jobs, new cities. This was our goodbye, whether we said it that way or not. A few days of beach, booze, and forgetting we were about to grow up. There were 6 of us. Sarah was the one who got things done. She found the cabin online. It was one of those off-the-grid spots with no reviews, no phone number, just an email and a rustic charm description that turned out to mean no plumbing. Her little brother Josh tagged along too. He was 16, annoying, always trying to prove he was older than he was. But the rest of us didn't mind. He was like a little brother to all of us by now. Katie and Marcus were the couple, always holding hands, always whispering to each other, always trying to hide the fact they were arguing half the time. Still, they fit, like puzzle pieces that didn't want to admit they had sharp edges. Danny was our wild card, unfiltered, unpredictable, either the life of the party or the reason the party got shut down. And I had known him the longest, since 2nd grade. He used to eat glue. Now he just drinks too much and talks about getting a sleeve tattoo he will never afford. And finally, there's me, Nick, the guy behind the camera, even when there isn't one. I like to watch more than I talk. People fill in the silence for you if you wait long enough. And I have learned more about my friends that way than they probably realize. We took Sarah's SUV and a beat-up old camping trailer Danny borrowed from his cousin. The drive down the coast took most of the day. Towns got smaller, trees got thicker, and the cell signal dropped until we were off the grid in every sense of the word. The cabin itself wasn't much, just 4 walls, 2 rooms, and a porch that creaked like it had arthritis. The beach was a few hundred yards past the tree line, a long narrow strip of sand with no docks, no lifeguard stands, and no signs. Just the sea and the sky and the sound of waves that never seemed to stop. It felt forgotten, like we had stumbled onto something the world wasn't using anymore. Anyway, we set up camp, dragged coolers onto the porch, cracked open our first drinks before the sun even finished setting. The sky turned orange, then violet, then a deep oily black. Stars came out like pinholes in fabric. No city glow, no traffic noise, just wind and water and fire. Danny lit a bonfire right on the sand. Josh ran into the surf, hollering like a maniac. Katie laid out towels and pulled out a portable speaker that only worked half the time. Sarah unpacked food she had meticulously labeled in Ziploc bags. and I took pictures. Not with a camera, just with my mind. That first night was full of laughter. We passed a bottle of something sweet and cheap in a circle, and played stupid games we all pretended we were too old for. Truth or dare, would you rather, and most likely to. At one point, someone, maybe Katie, brought up local legends, because there's always one. Danny swore he had heard something about a ghost ship that washed ashore here 100 years ago. Its crew vanished without a trace. Josh claimed he saw something move in the water, a shape too big to be a fish. We all laughed it off, drunk stories, firelight fears. But when the fire burned down to embers and the ocean got louder, the fun started to feel thin. Like we were pretending to be relaxed. Like we wanted to be distracted. Because we were all starting to feel it, even if we didn't say it yet. Something about the place wasn't right. The next morning, I went down to the water before anyone else woke up. The sky was low and grey, the air thick with that metallic smell the sea gets before a storm. The waves were small, but there was something strange about the way they moved. Like they were pulling in a different direction. Like the ocean didn't know what it wanted. I walked along the shoreline for a while, found a jellyfish the size of a dinner plate. It was bloated and pulsing, half buried in the sand. Its body was translucent, but something inside it looked dark. I didn't get too close. Further down, I found an old piece of driftwood lodged in the sand. Except it wasn't driftwood. It was carved, crudely, like it had been whittled with a knife. The shape was vaguely human. Its arms too long, no face, just a smooth oval head and pointed fingers. I turned it over with my shoe, then left it where I found it. Back at the cabin, Sarah was pacing. The radio wasn't picking up anything, and her phone wouldn't turn on. Not just no signal, no power. It had worked the night before. Josh swore he heard something moving in the trees behind the cabin. Could have been a deer, he said, but he didn't sound convinced. Katie said she saw lights out on the water, like lanterns bobbing just beneath the surface. Danny told her it was just the moon reflecting off the waves. Except it wasn't night. By that second night, the mood had shifted. We still joked, still ate marshmallows and played music, and dared each other to run into the water naked. But the energy had changed. It felt forced, like we were trying to laugh louder than whatever was creeping in at the edges. The ocean sounded different. Not louder, just closer. And that night, I sat up by the fire after the other ones went to bed. The wind had died, but the air still moved in a way that felt wrong, like breath on the back of my neck. The surf was black and endless, and I thought I saw something out there. Something tall and still, just past where the waves broke. I blinked and it was gone. Or maybe it had just lowered itself back in. We all decided to leave the next morning. Sarah wanted to go at dawn. She didn't say why, but her eyes gave it away. She hadn't slept at all. None of us had. At least, not really. We kept hearing things. Low thumps outside the cabin. A splash when no one was near the water. Josh even swore he heard voices. Not shouting, whispers from the trees or the sea. We all packed up fast, but the van refused to start. The battery was dead. Sarah popped the hood and cursed. Josh suggested we hike back to the main road, but none of us remembered how far it actually was. We hadn't been paying attention on the way in. We were laughing, drinking, talking about nothing at all. And now the forest behind us felt like it was leaning in, pressing closer. So we stayed. One more night. The afternoon was colder than the others. The wind of the water had a bite to it. Clouds smeared across the sky like bruises. I kept catching the others staring at the horizon like they expected something to rise out of it. I at least tried to play normal. Took a walk down the beach with Danny. He was quiet for once. No jokes, no stories. Just him kicking rocks into the surf. Does it feel loud to you? He asked me. What do you mean? The water. It's louder than it should be. He paused. Like it's talking to me. I didn't answer. I just looked out at the sea. There was a shape out there again. Same place as before. It was long, dark and still. Danny saw it too. We didn't say a word, just turned and walked back to the cabin. That evening, Josh disappeared. 1 minute he was poking the fire, complaining about being hungry, and the next, he was gone. We searched the beach, the woods, even the shallow pools near the rocks. We all shouted until our throats were raw. But the ocean didn't give him back. His footprints led down to the beach and ended. They just stopped mid-strike, like he'd stepped into air. We stood there in the dying light, listening to the surf suck at the shore. The wind had stopped completely. It felt like the world held its breath. After a while, Katie started to cry. Sarah just stared out at the water. I heard her whisper something under her breath. It's not done with us yet. That night, no one slept. We all ended up in the cabin, huddled around the lantern, barely speaking. And every so often, someone would look at the window and then quickly look away. The waves were louder than ever and closer. It felt like they were coming up the beach inch by inch, like the sea was creeping toward us, reaching and searching for something. At some point, Katie started mumbling. At first we thought she was asleep, talking in her dreams, but her eyes were wide open, glossy. They are in the water, she said, her voice distant. "They are below. They are waiting." "Who?" Sarah asked. But Katie didn't answer. She just stared through the walls. Later that night, I walked out alone. I don't really know why. Something pulled at me, quiet and patient, like a rope tied to my chest. The beach was silver in the moonlight, the ocean flat and black, and out where the horizon should have been, where sky and sea should have met, there was something rising. Tall, thin, pale, like a tower made of bones, like a spire of driftwood and flesh, wrapped in seaweed and salt. It was far, but not far enough, and beneath it, just below the surface, I saw shapes, dozens of them, maybe more. They looked like they were wiggling. I ran back to the cabin, tried to warn them, tried to explain, but how do you tell your friends that the sea has grown teeth? That the tide is crawling toward you, hungry? Danny was the only one that believed me. Maybe he had seen something too. He grabbed the firewood and started stacking it at the door. "We burn it," he said. "Whatever comes up here tonight, we burn it." We made a wall of flame, set the beach on fire, built a line of logs and dry branches, and lit them all. The fire roared like it was screaming, throwing sparks into the air. And still, we all saw them, shapes in the water, coming closer. We stood in a line, backs to the flames, eyes locked onto the sea. And as the surf touched the firelight, we saw them crawl out. They weren't human. They weren't anything I have words for. Their bodies were stretched and glistening. Their skin was smooth and colorless, like things that had never seen the sun. No eyes, no mouths, just faces, smooth as bone, tilted toward us like they were listening. They didn't walk. They slithered, and every moment they made sounds like the tide turning over. But the fire held them back, barely. They started circling us and waiting. Then something called to them from out beyond the waves, a sound I didn't hear with my ears, but I felt it deep in my bones, in the back of my teeth. It felt like the ocean itself had spoken. And all at once, the things stopped moving. They turned in unison and slipped back into the surf. Gone. Just like that. By morning, the beach was empty. Josh never came back. Neither did Katie. She walked into the sea before dawn, silent and calm. We couldn't stop her. Sarah didn't even try. Danny left with me. We hiked for hours until we found a road, flagged down a truck, never told the driver why we were barefoot, or why our clothes smelled like salt and smoke. We both don't talk about what we saw. Sarah stayed behind. She said she had to watch the shore, that it wasn't over. I still dream about them. The things in the water, the tide with teeth. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear it again. That voice, calling and waiting. The ocean is never empty.